I'm Adam Shanks. I am the Ag and Natural Resources Educator in Clinton County, Indiana, which is central Indiana. And today we're going to talk about wonderful pesticide labels and their uses and functions as we start to apply pesticides. So to start out with, we're going to do a little bit of a review of last time's topic, and also maybe just lay some groundwork or some foundation about pesticides and their labels. So pesticides can be used two different ways. There's preventive treatment, which will prevent a pest problem from occurring. So you put this down ahead of time before there's a problem to prevent the problem from happening. Or there's a rescue treatment, which is the problem has already occurred, the pest is there, now we have to eradicate it. So the very first step in pest control is you got to identify the pest correctly. You don't know what to treat with if you haven't properly identified the insect, the fungus, the weed, whatever it is that you're trying to eradicate. You have to identify it first to properly find the right product to use. So obviously, if you misidentify what you're trying to treat, you can have some real problems, as in this cat that they found. So pesticide labels, first and foremost, are made to keep everybody safe, keep the environment safe, keep the handlers safe. Everything that you need to properly do to utilize that product safely is going to be found on the label. Again, safety includes safety to yourself, safety to others, safety to your desirables. So you don't want to kill the grass in your yard, you want to kill the dandelions, or you don't want to kill your roses, you want to kill the thistles that are around them. So you got to make sure you're going to be safe to the desirables, safety to non-target organisms, and obviously environmental safety. So we've stepped away, I guess, from days of this. I love the sign on the side of the truck: powerful insecticide, harmless to humans. So we've gotten a little bit more wise since this picture was taken about how to properly use insecticides or any sort of pesticide. So what is a pesticide? Okay, well, it's any product that claims to kill, repel, or otherwise disrupt the life cycle of a living organism. Examples include insecticides, miticides, herbicides, fungicides, rodenticides, and algicides. So the side obviously is a Latin to mean to kill, so it kills insecticides, mites, herbs, fungus, rodents, and algae. So at the very top level, at the national side, there are laws that affect pesticides and their use. On the national level, the governing body for that is the Federal Insecticide, Fungicide, and Rodenticide Act, FIFRA. And that is, I guess, policed or maintained by the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency. And then more on a local level, those laws are put into place, maybe changed a little bit more for local needs, but those are administered and policed or maintained by the Office of the Indiana State Chemist, which is located on Purdue's campus. But basically, it mirrors the FIFRA laws, but like I said, with some local flair for Indiana. And I'm sure if you're not in Indiana, you'll have a state governing body for the pesticides wherever you're located as well. So some of the provisions for FIFRA requires that all pesticides are labeled, and that makes the label a legal document, which must be followed. You'll hear me say this once, you'll hear me say this twice, you'll be sick of hearing me say this by the time this call's over. The label is the law. You must follow the label, that is the law. But on the flip side of that, courts have said this also makes the label a warranty. So if you followed the label, applied like it's supposed to, followed everything that it says, and you have a failure, well, now you've got a warranty claim that, hey, I did everything I was supposed to, and these weeds escaped, or this algae didn't go away. You've got a warranty there to go back to the manufacturer to stand on. It also classifies pesticides into two main categories: general use, which you can buy openly at any sort of store, or restricted use, which you have to have a label or a license that you've taken an exam and have a little bit more understanding about how to use that product, how to mix that product, how to handle that product, how to dispose of it, just a little bit more intensive training involved to get the restricted use license. Again, here's the restricted use pesticide. So they've shown to have serious harm to human health or the environment if not used or handled properly. And so you must take an exam and have a license to purchase these types of products. So now we'll get into what's actually on a pesticide label. Generally, all labels will have these two terms on them. It's a violation of federal law to use this product in a manner inconsistent with its labeling. The label is the law. And then obviously, keep out of reach of children will be on the very front. So there's four common types of information on the labels. You have your safety information. You have such as reentry intervals, equipment to wear, PPE equipment required, environmental information, the product information. So it's formulation, it's active ingredients, and then also the use. So what weeds does this control, or what does this product control? How do I apply it? How much do I apply? Those kind of things. So you'll see on there four main signal words, and these tell you the immediate risk or danger of that product. So at the highest risk is danger / poison. It'll obviously have a skull and crossbones. These are highly toxic. It may, it takes a very little bit to be toxic to a human. Then just a step below that is danger, corrosive to skin, or an eye irritant. So most of these products will be a restricted use product. So you'll have to have a special license to buy and apply most of these types of products. And then the last of the four is warning, moderately toxic, a taste to an ounce may kill an adult, and then caution, so slightly toxic, an ounce or more. So all are still very dangerous. You don't want to be careless and uncautious when handling these products. It just gives you a quick glance that, man, we really, really, really need to be cautious with this one, or we just need to really just be careful with this one. So again, at the safety information, it'll have your PPE requirements for that product. So minimum clothing that's assumed to be on a label. You want to wear a long sleeve shirt. You want to have waterproof shoes, and you want to have long pants. So that way, if some of this stuff splashes out, you're just minimizing the amount of skin that's exposed that can absorb this chemical if you get a splash. So on the label, you'll have some different, if it's a really toxic, like if you had the skull and crossbones, it's going to require some more protective equipment to wear. Things like maybe you have to have a respirator, goggles. I think goggles are always a must because that stuff may tend to want to splash as you're mixing, or even if you're spraying with a hand or something like that, the wind can want to blow that stuff around a little bit. Rubber boots, aprons to wash off and keep the products off your clothes, and gloves. Gloves are always a must in handling any sort of pesticide. Chemical resistant, not latex. So there again, gloves should be considered a minimum in protective equipment. And we'll talk a little bit more about glove types here later on. Oh, okay. Now, so gloves, chemical resistant with no lining. So I have several gloves at home that have they're rubber, but they have like a fur lining inside. It's not fur, but like a cloth lining inside. And those, you don't want those, because if the chemical gets on that lining, there's nowhere for it to go. It stays trapped in that fabric and just holds it against your skin. So you have a greater chance of it causing injury because it's actually inside your glove being held against your skin. So having a glove with no lining will be able to quickly rip it off and wash off the contaminant. So again, on the label, right inside or very close to the front will be the safety first aid information. Basically, it'll tell you what you need to do should emergency arise. And just a pro tip, if you're using pesticides of any kind, have the label handy, or take a picture of it on your phone. That way, if something does happen and you have to go to the hospital, having the label or a picture of the label can quickly tell the doctors what treatment you need. The EPA registration number will tell them what the formulation of that chemical or pesticide is, and then they will know what they need to do to treat it. So I know in an emergency you're not thinking to do that. So if you're using something, just take a picture and have it on your phone. Or like I said, just have those labels handy so you can grab them and go if there's an emergency. And many products have an 800 telephone number. You can call and ask for safety questions. Re-entry level, we talked about this in the safety side of it. So this is if you treat an area, treat your lawn, treat your flower bed, treat your garden, how soon can you re-enter that area? You'll find this on your label. If nothing is listed, generally it's assumed that the label or that the product is safe shortly after application. If it's a emulsified liquid or liquid, as soon as it dries, it's safe to re-enter. So yeah, also, so this is the harvest interval. This is the amount of time you must wait. So if you treat your garden with something for worms or fungus, this is how long you have to wait before you can harvest that fruit and eat it. It's basically, you don't want to contaminate anything you're going to eat or sell. So you want to make sure that you're following what the label says about harvest. If you got something you need to harvest in the next 30 days and the harvest interval is 45 days, then you should probably look at a different product. Some more safety information, environmental hazard statements. So, if it's toxic to bees, fish, don't apply within 10 feet of surface water if you've got a pond or something around. All this information will be found in the label. Endangered species, I think there's one county in Indiana that has a endangered species. So, but Indiana, you generally don't see a statement like this for products, but definitely something to be aware of if you are in other states to take a look at before you're applying a product. So on the very front, you can get into the basic names of the product. So you've got your brand name. In this case, we're using 7, the powder you apply to your garden. common name, and then the chemical active ingredients. So you can actually have a common name and the chemical name be the same but have a different brand name. So you can have a different company that's supplying the same product. So you really got to look at your common name and chemical names to make sure that you're getting what you want. The formulation, so is this going to be a ready-to-use solution? Is this a product you pick up off the shelf and take home and apply immediately? Is this a wettable powder? So this is a powder that you have to mix in with water. Same way with an emulsifiable concentrate. So this is, you bought pure glyphosate, you got to mix it in with water to dilute it to apply it. Or you've got your dust that you can just apply right onto the plant. And again, it'll tell you on the label if it's a general use or restricted use. Your manufacturer or packager name and information will be on there, and that's good to have if you have questions about the safety of the product, or if you have a warranty claim. You'll want to have that information right there handy so you can file that or get a hold of them. The net weight or volume of the package. So is this a 12-ounce can of powder? Is this a 2.5-gallon liquid? Whatever product you're buying, the volume and the weight will be on there. And then towards the bottom, you'll have your EPA registration number and your EPA establishment number. So that's specific to the product, and then where the product was made. And again, those are what your hospitals and doctors will have information on to have treatment sources for somebody that's been exposed to these products. So a physical and chemical hazard statement just tells if the product might be corrosive to equipment or other hazards, and then the warranty information, you know, who to contact if the product fails. So on through the label, you'll find directions for use. So what pesticide this treats, how much to use, storage and transportation instructions, the re-entry or harvest interval we talked about, and then container disposal. I mean, what do we do with these containers when we're done? Can we burn them? Can we just throw them in the trash? If we have some left, do we dump it down the drain? So all these questions are answered within the label. So pesticide use refers more than to just using the product. So it also includes the handling, the transporting, the mixing, the loading, the storing, and the disposing of the container that we talked about. So the more of the story, read the entire label. The label is the law. If you're off label, you're breaking the law. So we'll talk a little bit about the toxicity of a pesticide. This is the level of the chemical that it takes to be poisonous. The dose is related to this. So if you have a large dose, the larger chances of serious consequences. And obviously all chemicals are toxic if enough is taken. So table salt, sodium's toxic, chloride's toxic. You put them together, you get table salt. So you gotta understand how all that works. So acute toxicity, that's just a single rapid poisoning. So it's measured actually by the LD50. And what the LD50 is, it's kind of like your golf score. The lower it is, the more toxic. So what it means is that's the amount of a product it took to terminate 50% of its target. So a lower number means it took less of this product to kill 50% of its target. So that means it's more toxic. So that's why a lower LD50 number has a more toxic level. There, the lower the LD50, the more toxic the product. So this is just an example. 60 milligrams per kilogram of body weight is more toxic than a product of an LD50 of 1,000 milligrams per kilogram of body weight. The 60 took less took less product to cause the damage. The LD50 doesn't usually appear on the label. It's more in the material safety and data sheet, the MSDS sheets. Generally, those don't come with the product, but you can find those online. But the best way to just judge is to look for the signal words on the label. Chronic toxicity is a more long-term exposure. So if you've, over the years been applying the same product and somehow it's been getting on your skin, or you've been inhaling it over the years, and now you've got a problem, 10 years after you've been using this product, that's more of a chronic issue than acute. We're seeing that with glyphosate lawsuits now. So how do people get exposed to pesticides and chemicals? Most cases are dermal or absorbed through the skin. If you're applying this stuff and you get some of it on your arms, or if you're spraying the driveway in shorts and you get it on your legs, you can feel it blowing onto your legs, you need to stop and put some long pants on or put a long sleeve shirt on. Then inhalation or breathing in those fumes is the second most common. And oral is the least. I mean, short of drinking the stuff, nobody plans on doing that. So that's the least common. So what's your risk? Well, the hazard to your health varies with the toxicity of the product and the exposure you allow yourself to have. Somebody's annotating my screen for me. So yeah, your hazard is the toxicity of the product times the amount of time exposed to it. So to limit your risk, you can select the chemicals you use for safety. You can limit your exposure by wearing the appropriate PPE and clothing. Again, the minimum is a long sleeve shirt, long pants, waterproof shoes. You want them to be waterproof, so if you get it on your feet, it doesn't absorb in and just stays right there where your feet can absorb it, and gloves. So some labels will tell you certain, well, they should all tell you specific PPE to wear. Again, the label is the law, so if you're not actually wearing the proper PPE, you're violating the law. Transporting, so when possible, avoid pesticides in the passenger compartment. Try to keep them outside. If not, keep the windows down. Large quantities, you want to make sure you secure the load. And then kitty litter can be used if you do have any spills to soak up the product. Storage, keep out of the reach of kids, pets, etc. Try to keep them from where they can't freeze. Metal shelves are preferred over wood because if there is a spill, the wood will want to absorb it, and then you've got a contaminated shelf. Have clean water nearby, well lit, well ventilated area. Clean up. After the application, you want to clean up your equipment, your PPE, and then triple rinse the containers. I don't know about power rinsing a container, but definitely triple rinse it and dump the wash back into the treated area. Don't dump it in the driveway or out in the yard. Dump the wash out back in the treated area so you're putting it right where you wanted it, right where you were treating anyways. Wash your clothes immediately after you apply a pesticide, and do not wash your family members or other clothes with them. Wash them by themselves, and then you should really run an empty load through in between to wash out any contaminants before you go back to washing your family's clothes. Shower thoroughly after any sort of an exposure to get that off your skin. So packaging. So we talked a little bit, this is a big deal, the container disposal. It's not legal to burn pesticide containers in Indiana, even if the label says you can burn the container. So it's not legal to burn those. There's the triple rinse. Again, rinse out the containers, apply the contaminant back to the treated area. If it's in a bag, slit it open, empty the remaining contents, dispose of the bag in a landfill. There are some different cleanup days that the State Chemist's Office for Indiana has that can take containers or leftover pesticides. It's called the Clean Sweep program. You can look that up online. They take the containers or any leftover pesticides and dispose of them properly without any questions. So, running out of time, off-label use. I want to get to some examples of labels since we're not in person. I took some pictures. Just using stuff off-label, you can cause more problems. And again, you don't want to over-apply. You don't want to apply to hard surfaces or driveways where stuff can run. And overwater can cause the chemical to move as well. Same way with be aware of the weather, the wind. If it's too windy, the stuff will move off target. The rain can cause it to wash off and move off target. And temperature, if you're applying a pesticide or herbicide and that plant's not actively growing because it's 40 degrees, you're wasting your money and time because it's not going to take in that herbicide and do any good. So again, looking where you are environmentally, you know, with water around, non-target movement, your PPE. Here's some stuff. You have some product left over. Find a responsible friend that maybe could use it. Do not pour it down the drain. The wastewater treatment plants, your septic system, do not want that pesticide coming through them. So do not pour the chemical down the drain. And then look for community tox away days. That's what I was talking about, the Clean Sweep program that Indiana offers to remove that stuff. Triple rinse, reapply to the target site. In Indiana, burning pesticide containers is illegal. So finally, always read and follow all label instructions, directions. The label is the law. So just in the last couple minutes here, I took some examples of some labels out in my shop. So to look at this one, I mean, right off the top of your head, you see caution. Keep out of the reach of children. This one has 3 different active ingredients. Where my mouse went. Oh, here we go. So this one's got some metribuzin in it for some residual control. But there you can see it's dispersible granules. So this is a granular product. And it's got its first aid treatment right here on the front. So it just gives you a good idea of what a basic, this is all right on the front of the container. Quick and easy to get the information. Here's your EPA registration number and establishment number. So boom, you take a picture of this and you're ready to go if there's a problem. Took this one. This is again, this is a 2,4-D label. It's an emulsifiable liquid, so it's a concentrate that you have to mix with water. Tells you what it controls, its active ingredients. It's a caution, and then it tells you there's the EPA registration number. I think, yeah, I did that. EPA registration number, and then it was a 2.5 gallon container. Then inside the first page here is the first aid, what to do if there is contact, personal protective equipment, and then it's a caution. The next page talks about spray drift management, droplet size, wind speeds, temperatures, the weeds that it's controlled, what equipment to use, how to use that equipment. So this, since we can't be in person, I just thought I'd pull off. This is just for 2,4-D product and how you use it through the proper label recommendations. And then you get in here. Here's non-agriculture use in a couple pages. So just some final resources. If you have questions, you can always look up the office, the Indiana State Chemist's office. The second link is the Purdue Pesticides program. They have a lot of great information on their website. And then the last bit is my email. If I can help you with anything, I'd be glad to. So with that, we're right on time. So if anybody has questions, Corey, I guess I'd be happy to be available.
I don't have any in the chat right now, but I don't know if people are thinking. So if there's nothing, then
okay.
Don't forget to fill out your surveys at the end of this. And we will see you again next week as we wrap up our series.
All right. Well, thank you very much for listening today. I appreciate it.
Where do you find the survey to fill out?
That will be coming out in an email here shortly after we conclude.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you for your time.
You bet. Thanks for participating.
Hey, Adam, there is one question in the chat box here real quick.
Okay.
How do you find the best pesticides to use, i.e. to kill daylilies?
The best pesticide to use. So you want to look at if that's a broadleaf or a grass, and then you want to start looking through the label to see what that is going to control. So you need to know where it's at. You know, if it's in your flower bed, you want to be more specific about where you're putting it. If this is a larger area, you can treat it with a more broad scope herbicide, but definitely want to just start to look through the labels and find a product. Maybe do a Google search or call your extension office about what would be the best pesticide to use for that situation. But you definitely want to look at the whole picture, not just the one problem. Hope that helps. Let's see. Looks like we're getting some more questions in here. I'm not sure on the berries. I can definitely look that up. If we have we can send you an email on. Let me do some research on that and see what we can find for you on that. That was Deb. Let me write that down.